Hey guys, Troy Francis here with another video. Do women like older men? The answer is yeah, a lot of them do. Do all of them? No. Do a majority of them? Probably not. But do a large minority of them, like at least somewhat older guys? Yes. That's what I would say. That's my observation, that's my experience in life, that's what I see, not only from myself and any dealings that I may have had, but also from working with clients, working with different guys, and so on and so forth. Now, obviously, there's a lot of subtleties to this. There are cultural differences. It depends where you are in the world. It also depends as well. I mean, like, not all older guys are equal. I mean, I'm 50. I reckon I'm in pretty decent shape. I reckon I look pretty good. I mean, I know the haters are going to disagree, but fuck them. I mean, I think I look pretty decent. My girlfriend is 20 years younger than me. I've pretty much exclusively dated women in their 20s and maybe early 30s for my entire life. Okay, so from my perspective, and obviously I've increasingly got older during that time. So from my perspective, I would say that age is not a barrier. As far as younger women are concerned, they do tend to like guys who are a bit older, but then it depends on how you present yourself. I mean, if you're 48 but you look like you're 65 and you're balding and you dress like somebody's dad, are you going to be, surrounded by model tier women? I mean, probably not. No, you've got to be fucking realistic about this. So there's that. And then the other thing as well is, as I said, cultural differences. So where are you in the world? Now, I'm in London at the moment, and I think it's fair to say that in London and in the West in general, the United States, probably Canada and all those boring Anglosphere countries, there's probably a bit of a, do you want to say stigma? There's probably a bit of consternation around age gap relationships, as they're called, It's not necessarily frowned on, but it's certainly something that probably gets noticed, Whereas I would say there are other cultures, namely like Eastern Europe, Latin America to some extent. I think some of the Southeast Asian locations as well, where the age gap thing just doesn't seem to be as much of an issue. Like culturally, it just doesn't seem to, people don't seem to care as much. So. Another factor that's going to come into this is where you are, where you're, the woman that you're interested in is from, and there again, if she's from, a country where age gap relationships are common, but then she's lived in America for 20 years, then obviously that's going to colour her expectations as well. So there's a lot of different factors really that come into this, but in general, I would say that from everything I've seen, as long as you've got to have the fundamentals down. It's the same as with anything. It's the same as any guy, regardless of age. You've got to have the fundamentals down, right? You've got to try to look decent. You've got to be in reasonable shape. You've got to have your shit together to some extent, right? If you've got a bit of money, it helps. I'm not saying that you're paying people or anything like that, but you want to be able to provide, ideally, some interesting dates, do some cool things together. That's obviously going to help. I mean, if you're a super fucking good looking dude and you're ripped and you're rich and you're in your late 40s or 50s, are you going to enjoy the attentions of younger women? Yes, absolutely you are. If you're some, fat fuck from Hull who's sitting in his mother's basement and looks like a bucket of crap, then your experience is going to be different. So you have to put yourself in the best position in order to enjoy that attention, if that's what you're looking for, okay? But in general, it seems to be the case that women do respond well to men who are experienced and somewhat dominant, and those things do tend to come with age, or they tend to improve with age. Now, I regularly get into arguments on Twitter or X or whatever with people who vehemently disagree with this, and I'm not talking about women even, I'm talking about other men who just say no, the only guys who are getting any action are in their 20s and that's it, and if you're not in your 20s it's over, which is obviously complete bullshit. But even to humour the argument just a little bit for the sake of discussion, one of the problems that some younger guys have, actually quite a lot of younger guys have, is that they look too young, right? I mean, we have a client at the moment that we're working with who's based over in Poland, and he's actually in his mid-20s, I think mid to late 20s. He looks super young, okay? He's very baby-faced. He's got those kind of like soft features, and probably not very much facial hair. I mean, I don't have a lot of facial hair, but this dude, not very much facial hair, baby-faced, soft features, somewhat childlike looking. For a lot of women, that's not particularly sexy, you know? Why? We talk about Daniel Craig as James Bond, right? Quite craggy looking, you know, our older guy, quite craggy looking, okay? Why was he so successful in that role? Well, it's because masculinity, it's not the same thing as this delicate sort of youthful, nubile feminine beauty. It's a different character of thing, right? It's a different genre, and masculinity tends to become more pronounced as the guy gets older, right? And this is why when you think about the leaders of countries or the leaders of tribes, they tend to be older men, right? These are the people that have amassed power and experience and wealth and resources and knowledge and all of these different things. And obviously all of those things as well women are attracted to, right? And just the way that you look, I mean, I think men grow into their looks as they age, all right? I know I certainly looked better when I was in my 30s than I did when I was in my 20s, right? And once again, I suffered from the baby-faced issue that a lot of guys suffer from. You know, I looked too young really for my age, and it wasn't that I was having no success, it wasn't that I never had girlfriends, but it, you know, it was certainly not doing me any favors, all right? When I became 30 and came into my 30s, I started to look more, you know, a bit more chiseled, a bit more defined. I started to just look a bit more, maybe a little bit more masculine, just the way that I looked. And, you know, then things started to change for me, okay? So there's that to bear in mind as well. It is not that, I mean, people have this assumption that, oh, okay, so he's going to be this sort of, you know, Abercrombie and Fitch model who's in his 20s. And yeah, sure, I mean, those guys, without a doubt, absolutely cleaning up. There's no argument about that. I think we all know that. But in general, there is also the danger, a lot of dudes who are in their 20s, they just look like, they kind of look like kids. Do you know what I mean? And women just don't find that particularly sexy. Women also always have this complaint, you know, guys who are younger, they don't really know what they're doing, they don't know what they want, they're not dominant, they're not able to sort of lead, they don't have those qualities. And all of that stuff takes time to develop, and you do tend to get it more when you're a little bit older. But once again, at the risk of repeating myself, which I will anyway, because it's important, if you don't look after yourself and you look like crap, then you're not going to be getting much action. But then you're not going to be getting much action anyway, whether you're 25 or you're 45. If you haven't looked after those fundamentals. So just bear that in mind. On that note, let's leave this one here. Hope you enjoyed this. Do give me a like, do write a comment below, let me know what you think. Do obviously subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And we've got an event coming up in London actually in July where we're going to be teaching a live boot camp for people interested in learning about dating skills. So there's information on that below. Have a look at that, drop me a message, troy@realtroyfrancis.com. I'll see you guys again very soon. Bye-bye.